Hello, class. My name is Mr. McFadden, and today I just wanted to make a little intro video to our unit about the United States Civil War. Started in 1861, ended in 1865, and was fought between the United States of America and the Confederate States of America. There's been a lot of other civil wars throughout history, but in this class, we're mainly going to be focusing on the United States Civil War because, well, we live there. Um, and so the Civil War, the United States was primarily the northern half of the United States, was referenced as the Union, while the southern half, which mainly seceded from the United States, was called the Confederate States. And there's a lot of opinions on why the Civil War started, but a main consensus that a lot of historians draw to is that slavery was the main driving factor between the war happening, which we covered before. But that was when Africans were stolen from Africa and brought to North America and the U.S. in particular, and were forced to work on numerous crops, but mainly cotton was the one that we primarily associate with American slavery. Um, Similar causes of the Civil War. I mean, slavery was always an issue in the United States. As soon as we seceded from the British in the American Revolution, which again we already covered, um, a lot of the founding fathers like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, they all have their opinions about slavery, and in fact, most of the founding fathers actually owned slaves themselves, and so slavery was a way to make money. I mean, it was very beneficial, but obviously there was some moral dilemmas because you are enslaving, human beings. Um, and so this has always been an issue. And even going back to around like the 1820s, you had the Missouri Compromise, um, which was kind of about how far slavery could extend, because the United States is primarily on the eastern coast of 13 colonies, and then as we're going west, we need to figure out when can slavery, how far can it go out west? And so the Missouri Compromise tried to say that no slave states can happen above this line, um, which made the northern states happy because slavery, was limited, but made the southern states happy because it allowed for new southern slave states to exist, such as we go into the future, Texas becomes a state in the Confederacy that allows slavery. And then you move forward to the Compromise of 1851, which began to get a little messy in America. It was already an issue. There's a lot of tension, but this kind of brought it to the forefront, um, with things like popular sovereignty and if slavery should be allowed in Washington D.C., our capital. A lot of issues there that I can't wait to go deeper on because it is truly one of the most fascinating things that we've done in our nation's history. Um, and then going forward, we have the election of 1860. Now, a lot of people might argue that this is the biggest election in the history of America and maybe the world. Um, this is when Abraham Lincoln, sometimes regarded as the best president we've ever had, was elected. And he was running against a Southern slave owner and two other people that also supported slavery, which is kind of rare that there's four different candidates. Now we get so used to, there's two candidates. Who are you going to pick? But back then, there's a little bit more freedom with who you could vote for, as there's four different parties going. Um, but Lincoln wins, and then immediately after Lincoln wins, South Carolina decides to secede from the Union. Now, secede means to leave, get out of there. Um, And I mentioned this is also in a video that I linked in our classroom page by Mr. Beat, a great teacher. He makes his own video about this. But the election, the Southern states were so afraid of Lincoln because he ran that slavery would be no more if he was elected. And so as soon as literally the night that he got elected, most of the Southern states get out of there. South Carolina first, and then I think I don't know. I think it's Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, something like that. But they basically all kind of break off all at once, and then maybe some of the like the northern, southern states, like the north of the South, like Tennessee and Virginia, they got there a little later. But basically, they say, "Hey, we're our own country now. We're not going to follow your rules that say we have to stop slavery." Um, Now, the North is not very pleased about this, and so they decide, like, no, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to go to war with you guys. Well, actually, the South decides to fire the first shots in this war. Um, Anyways, so we get there. The war is very deadly. It's the deadliest war that America's ever been in up to that point because every casualty of this war was an American. The enemy was someone that grew up in the same country as you. And so this was obviously a war that was very confusing for the United States. Whose side are you on? Who are you like rooting for? Because this is ultimately, at the end of the day, someone that you want to reconcile with. Um, so that was a major point. Then somewhere in the middle of the war, Lincoln actually passes the Emancipation Proclamation, which officially allows slavery to be legal in all of the United States, um, which is why slavery doesn't exist anymore. And there's some other details I want to get to another time, but I'm kind of running out of time. We kind of want to wrap this up soon. So I can't wait to teach you guys about the Civil War, the causes, what happens, the effects of it. As I believe it's a very important part of American history. And I'll see you guys later.